If not for an incidental glance at the sky, I would never have dredged from the tangle of my memory that glimpse of a gray sky tainted green by the sinister pillar of light. The tremors had ceased, and one by one, soggy patrons of the cafe picked themselves up from under the rattled furniture, between the babbling mutual confirmation that an earthquake had indeed happened. Inquiries for compensation were already audible from that one snobbish customer, screaming hysterically just a minute before. When I stepped out onto the pavement, however, I knew that life had not returned to normal just yet. Due either to my body echoing the earth's quaking or to the ground itself having shifted surreptitiously in its angles, I found myself shambling along, eyes fixed on the luminous, ethereal pillar of green light pluming just over the horizon. There was an odd smell in the air, and I tried to persuade myself that it is simply the raw scent of freshly turned soil as I stepped carefully over the fractured asphalt road leading up to this hill of considerable height, and as I climbed carefully up the hillside golf course, now torn to pieces by vast gaping cracks in the soil, I felt as though I was scaling a shattered mask of modern civilization, cast to the ground before Mother Nature's fury. The green light still shone in the air, just beyond the crest of the hill. Like a mirage, I thought, and noticed that my unconsciously hastened pace was leaving me breathless and deaf to the distant calling voices behind my back. Did it look just like this? I asked myself. For some reason I couldn't be sure if it was the same pillar of light that I saw so many years ago, as a child, just before the Los Angeles earthquake. My memories were going fuzzy, and I watched helplessly as the half-remembered image melded together with photographs of earthquake light I saw when browsing the internet in late and boring nights. Presently, my skin began to itch with what felt like static electricity in the air. That was one of the explanations for the frequently reported but hardly studied phenomena of light beams radiating from the earth before earthquakes. But is this supposed to persist after the tremor? Why couldn't I stop climbing? Was there some sort of organic magnetism that was drawing me over the accursed precipice? I was at the apex of the hill. By the time fatigue drew back its merciful haze from my vision, I saw that the peak was basked in the otherworldly green light that permeated the air, and with each step towards the cliff, I was more and more assured that its source was from below. Under the sundered earth yawned that luminous necropolis that shall forever haunt my nightmares. Jumbled and twisted in the rolling bright mist were titanic spires and stilted stairways, intertwining grotesque idols of semi-humanoid images amongst their serpentine embrace, and as a suddenly fetid updraft pummeled my stiffened face, the gust brought with it a sweeping cacophony of tormented groans and whines from 1,000 throats wore thin by screaming and starvation. Skeletal hands clambered onto the misshapen masonry and pulled up disproportioned faces from beneath the phosphorescent mist, each swimming in sequences of extreme horror or agony. Yet, before the damned wretches could escape the seething pool of gaseous brimstone, furry, scaly, feathery, arachnoid, and altogether invisible claws would burst forth from beneath the churning ectoplasm to pull the woeful forms back into the abyss. I do not know how much time had passed. The untold eons of alien anguish must have seeped into my consciousness, for there, atop the hill, I stared into the esoteric chaos as the empty sockets of those within stared back at me, and I too screamed until I lost awareness of my own screaming. There was no reprieve at the end of my eternality, however, for emerging from the luminous fog near the end of my endless vigil was none other than my own face. The earth quaked again in that infinitesimal moment of recognition, as though in empathy with my inexpressible excruciation and the acceptance of this ineradicable violation of my mind and memory. Even still, I must be grateful for the quavering of the earth, for it had not plunged me into that unthinkable pit, and in its stead, I tumbled down the grassy slope and towards the world of sanity. My only regret today was that the earth had not swallowed me up in one of its open gashes, and there crushed me into a blissfully oblivious pulp. When I awoke once again at the foot of the hill, bruised and bloodless, I felt rather than saw that the abysmal green light had gone, and gateway to that unspeakable realm had closed for now. Yet in this shallow surface world of sanity, I can only linger, for knowing the universe's susceptibility to such errant blasphemy, or the human mind's ability to comprehend it, will surely accelerate my death. And even in death I shall dread, for who is it to say that conscious existence will not continue in that luminous abyss? Still, I entertain one last hope that the violent destruction of my brain will put a definite end to my existence in any shape or form, and so I shall soon pull the trigger in prayer.